What's going on, guys? My name is Tyicus, and I know it's been a while since I've made a video on Warhammer 40k Darktide, and to be honest, I simply just could not continue to play the game in the current state that it was in. Those of you who are familiar with Darktide know what I'm talking about. However, for those of you who don't know, I have a video on my channel titled Darktide Frustrations, pretty much going over the issues and suggestions to resolve them. I'll leave the link to that video in the description down below and in the upper right hand corner if you guys are interested in watching that video. I just wanted to let you guys know that's the reason why there hasn't been any Darktide content on the channel. But anyways, that is not the reason why we are here today. There has been some promising news that came out today from the dev at Fatshark. They have posted a developer blog, which I will also have the link in the description down below as well. So today we're going to go over the devlog and see what exciting changes are going to be made to the game. All right, so let's dive right into the devlog. Deep dive into the shrine. Rejects. For today's blog, we will outline some of the features and changes we are actively working on in our next major patch and discuss how we arrived at making some of those changes in detail. First thing on the list is an update on the shrine. Before Darktide's launch date, we brought an update on different features we were working on for the game's crafting system. The functionality of these crafting features was completed in December, and we internally began playtesting how they function, felt, and fit within the game. This led us to identify key issues with our features surrounding blessings. We were not happy with releasing these features to our players in their current implementation. We are going to explain further why we arrived at this decision. Throughout the launch period for Darktide, we began to receive feedback from players playing the game in its entirety. One of the loudest feedback points we saw was exposing issues in our acquisition methods for items. Yes, 100%. We identified that these issues for item acquisition would be further compounded by the blessing crafting features we had implemented. It would result in a frustrating experience for players. So we decided to hold back the additional crafting functionality while we revisit our item acquisition system to alleviate the would-be strain on the crafting system. With that choice in place, we set ourselves upon the task of reworking some of our sources for item acquisitions, and we will cover these topics first and then dive into the changes we are making for crafting moving forward. So basically what it sounded like was, if you guys are familiar with it, we all know that the item acquisition was completely RNG, right? It's completely random. You didn't have a choice. And it seemed like the crafting system that they did have beforehand was going to be more RNG, basically. So it's going to be RNG on top of even more RNG. And that's pretty much what they saw. So it sounds like the crafting system has been reworked a third time. I think that's like 3 times now. But anyways, let's move on. So how will crafting change from Vermintide to Darktide? In Vermintide, crafting was focused around creating, salvaging, and modifying items obtained through reward chests and through the crafting of blueprints. There are some similarities between the two games with the modification options, yet Darktide will carve its own path when it comes to crafting. Instead, it is centered around modifying weapons rather than weapon creation, and we will have a heavier focus on acquiring exciting items of different potentials through many sources in the game. Okay. Equipment in Darktide. For Darktide, we wanted to set a different direction for the item characters will choose to equip. We want each weapon and curio players to find in Darktide to have a distinctive difference of potential within. The foundation we set with modifiers, perks, and blessing changes how each weapon can potentially perform. The combination of these offer an exciting array of variety, and we want players to continue acquiring many variations in pursuit of interesting build diversity. That sounds fantastic. Build diversity is always a great thing in games like this. This build potentially exists today as a teaser for our next major patch. Players can look forward to easily saving and loading presets builds that they... Oh, wow, really? You can save and load presets now? That's kind of interesting. I didn't know that was coming in. That's nice. That's good. That's a good feature. Nice quality of life change there. This direction for items having exciting hidden potential is where our source of acquiring items in Darktide come into effect. We consider the Armoury Exchange to be an expansion of the mission completion phase, where the docket players receive allow them to choose their own reward from this store or save them for a more interesting option should they find one later. In reality, we acknowledge the feedback that players desire further agency within the Armoury Exchange. We will release a new feature to the Armoury Exchange where players can acquire any weapon type by its mark that has been unlocked by achieving the minimum level requirement. This will be made available in the next major patch. So this is one of the major complaints that the community, and one of the major complaints that I went over in my previous video. But the fact is, to be able to choose the weapon that you want to buy in the Armoury Exchange is a fantastic change, right? Like currently right now there's no way of choosing. Like it's completely randomly generated by rarity, by item rating, and even the weapon itself individually you can't choose, right? It's just random, all completely random. So there's just times where you're just sitting there for hours and hours just praying that you get the item that you want to buy, like your favorite, like this one, the Devil's Claw, right? For example. And for characters that have multiple weapons, like a lot of weapons, I play an Ogre and Skullbreaker, so we don't have as many weapons as like the other classes. There's often times where you're just never going to see that weapon that you really like, right? It's crazy. Like it's just like because there's so many different weapons, it's like the RNG was just really bad. So this is a very exciting change, giving players the ability to choose to buy the weapon that they really want to use. Very good change. All right, so acquiring items through this new requisition system in the Armory will give players a common profane rarity weapon of varying item rating according to their character's current level. It is worth noting that profane weapons in Darktide have the most potential of becoming powerful weapons in combination with their base modifier via upgrades through crafting. To accompany this new feature, we will improve the selection of items in the hourly catalog in both the base item rating range and their potential. So this is another feature that the community has been really wanting, is basically the items that are only pretty much worth picking up in its current state right now is white items, right? Because white items have the potential of upgrading to the best and the highest rating legendary items out there. But the fact is, currently right now in the current state, there's not much white items being offered in the Armoury Exchange. So this is a very nice change that you're coupled with the fact that you're able to choose and purchase whatever weapon you want, and it comes at a white item rating. It just makes crafting so much more rewarding at the end of the day, right? That's a fantastic change. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Let's see. Further changes to item acquisition. To accompany these changes to the Armoury Exchange, we will make further changes to other sources of acquiring items within Darktide. The Emperor's Gift, which was occasionally received upon successful mission completion, will now be granted upon every mission completion without any limit by time. So this should have been like day one. I don't know why they decided to like make this RNG and also put like a cap on it, I believe. I think there was like a weekly cap or something on this. So that's fantastic. They heard the community's uproar about this, and this is great. As was the previous case, yes. In addition, the Emperor's Gift will be influenced by several factors: the difficulty of the chosen mission and the conditions and side missions completed. Both factors will improve the chances of receiving an item with higher potential. Fantastic. This gives us a reason to play on Damnation difficulty. As of right now, there's absolutely no reason other than trying to get your penances done. There was no reason to run Damnation difficulty at all because there was no reward, right? Like even doing the harder conditions and doing side missions, there wasn't any reward of doing that. So this is a fantastic change altogether right here. This is amazing. Sire Melk is another source of item acquisition, and we will also be implementing some changes in the next patch. We are reducing the amount of work each contract asks of players and increasing the rewards players will receive for completing the task. The collection of grimoires and scriptures will be collapsed into a single contract for completing these collectible side missions. We will also add a couple of new contracts for collecting both plasteel and diamantine. Importantly, in addition to these changes to the contracts offered, we will be improving the quality of weapons offered by the daily catalog and through the mystery acquisition. This is good. Like, this is a fantastic change. Honestly, Sire Melk just felt like a glorified Armoury Exchange. Like, there was no reason to even purchase anything from the weekly vendor. I mean, this is supposed to be, he is supposed to be like the vendor that offers the like highest quality of gear, right? Because it's weekly contracts that you're doing. It's also like limited and it takes a lot of time to gather that currency. So, but at the current state, he doesn't really offer anything good. So this is a great change. Like I'm excited to see the high quality of items that he's going to be offering in the new patch when it does go live. But yeah, this is a fantastic change. Also, reducing the amount of work the contract asks, like that's good. Like the current contracts was just either really tedious, where you had to run like over 20 missions just to complete one of the tasks. But it's really nice to know that they're basically respecting the time and effort that players are putting in to complete their weekly tasks. Okay, so let's take a look at the next thing, unlocking crafting. The first major change from the previous crafting implementation we discussed is that we will not be implementing the fuse combined blessing functionality. Instead, so they're removing that. Instead, earning a blessing will permanently unlock the ability to re-bless with that blessing at any time. Okay, that's good. We made this decision as it complements where we will take blessing in the future, and it greatly alleviates the number of items that one would need to acquire, not only the ability to re-bless, but also what you can re-bless with. As stated in the previous section about equipment, we expect players to switch and try out new weapons as they discover different and exciting potential combinations and builds. Earning the ability to permanently re-bless allows for a far more enjoyable and less time-consuming experience and an easier time experimenting with interesting builds for your character. That is fantastic. That's good. Rewarding players by choice and, you know, making things less grindy. That's awesome. In combination with this, we are also improving the other aspects of crafting. We have implemented a cost scaling system that will change the total material cost required depending on the weapon's item rating for all actions at the Shrine of the Omnissiah. Let's recap all the available crafting features, including what will be present in the next patch. Okay, so consecrate, upgrade the rarity of weapons and curios. Upgrading profane and redeem will cost plasteel, and after that, plasteel and diamantine are required. Okay, so that's good. So white to green is going to be plasteel only, and then beyond that is going to include diamantine. Nice little change. Refine perk. Refine a single perk on an item to roll for a new perk selected at random by Hadron. The perk that was not chosen to be refined will become locked for this weapon. So nothing changed here. Still the same. Earn blessing. Surrender the entire weapon to Hadron, thereby losing it in its process. Players can then select a blessing to earn the right to permanently re-bless other weapons with the earned blessing. Blessing are shared across different weapons marked of the same weapon type. This is something that we have yet to try yet, so it's going to be interesting. Going to be interesting to test once we do get our hands on that. Re-bless. Players can choose to replace a single blessing on the weapon with a blessing of choice they have earned the right to use. The other blessing that was not chosen will be locked. So it's kind of similar to refining your perks, right? You only get to re-roll one, well, not re-roll, right? You get re-bless one blessing, and then the other one's going to be locked. Again, we don't have this feature yet, so it's going to be interesting to test it out once we do get it. But other than that, it looks good. Like, we've been waiting for the full crafting system to be released and to get our hands on it and to really test it out. So it's good to know that the crafting system is gonna finally be completed in this next coming patch, and we're just gonna have to get our hands on it and just test it out and see how it goes. Okay, patch number 4, Blessing of the Omnissiah. As mentioned previously, the next patch to Darktide will include these changes to the crafting system and item acquisition. We will continue to monitor feedback Once it is in your hands, I will continue to make adjustments and changes if necessary. There are a number of additional new features, changes, and improvements to come in this next patch, which we'll be discussing in our next community comm link. We greatly appreciate blah, 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 blah. Thank you for reading. Okay. All right. So it looks like there's going to be more features and changes and improvements. I'm guessing like bug fixes, crashes, weapon balancing, and things like that coming in the next comm link. So one thing I did notice is that there's no official date as to when this patch is going to go live. So however, I mean, they did say that they're going to mention they're going to be discussing more things in the next community comm link, so maybe they're going to announce the patch date in that developer blog. And that's pretty much the end of the developer blog today. What are your guys' thoughts? Are you guys going to give Darktide another go? Do these changes look promising to you? Let me know in the comments down below. For me personally, I'm glad that the devs are finally listening to the community's feedback and are making the effort to make these changes for the better. If the changes are as good as they sound on paper, it just might, save the game and bring players back. But we're just gonna have to wait and see. We're just gonna have to wait and see until the patch goes live, and get our hands on it, and then see where it goes from there. But alrighty, guys, that's pretty much it. That's gonna be it for this video. By the way, I am currently diving into live streaming right now on YouTube. I'm still learning the ins and outs of streaming, as I am new to the whole spiel. I don't have a current streaming schedule just yet. I'm trying to find the time to fit in live streaming with my day-to-day schedule. We might be live streaming some Darktide when the patch hits the live servers. So make sure you guys follow me on Twitter. That is where I post updates and when I do go live. Link to that is in the description down below as well. Other than that, I appreciate you guys for giving me your eyeballs, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.